We're all set.
Great. Good evening, everybody. This is a meeting of the IDA and LDC Finance Committee for December 21st. It looks like we have all of our members and we have quorum. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? Oh, there are no minutes.
No, not for us.
Take that back. So I guess we can move right into the public comment period. Is there any? I don't know if there's any public commentary here today, is there?
There are none.
There's
nobody's here.
Nobody's. I don't know, Sean. Chris takes offense to that. So we have actually some unfinished business from, this is actually carryover from the last two finance committee meetings. And I think this goes under the heading of good deeds never get fully recognized here, but we had a number of applicants for our PPE grants, and there are 4 that either were unfinished, we needed more information, et cetera. And I think Sean and Melissa have done that due diligence. So in the interest of simplicity, I think we've seen every one of these before. Maybe Sean could give us just a quick update, make a recommendation, and then we can move those forward to action.
Thank you, Carm. So with these last 4, if approved tonight, the IDA will have assisted 11 businesses and committed almost $71,000 of the $100,000 it had reserved for the COVID-19 PPE program. As you mentioned, there were some that were some questions we had to work through, and we kept at it with the applicants here. Tonight, we'll present to you Axon on Health at Latham, Inc., Christopher J. Lyons, DMD, PLLC, Colonie Senior Services Center, Inc., and Elizabeth C. Barra, DDSP, LLC, as recommending them for final approval. We do have 4 applications that I'm not including here. We've received the applications, and I've tried to work, made a good faith effort to work with those applicants, but just have not moved those much forward at all, haven't gotten responses. Or it's just dragged on a little too long, and I think that we're not going to get there. So tonight, let me just give you a quick summary. Axon on Health, Latham, you probably know them better as ABC Sports and Fitness. They're requesting $10,000, which will help offset the unexpected costs of the MERV 13 air filters and the cleaning and sanitizing supplies at the location. They had about a little more than 12 full-time equivalent employees, average payroll of just under $30,000. Prior to the closure, they had a head count, not necessarily an FTE number, but a head count of 53. And they've been net positive in 2019, but experiencing a net negative directly attributed to the pandemic. Dr. Lyons has requested $2,638.28 in eligible expenses to offset the unanticipated cost of increased cleaning and sanitizing supplies, as well as PPE. There were some ineligible expenses that we removed through our due diligence. At the time of the application, he had 6 employees with an average payroll of $70,000. Prior to the closure, his office was able to treat 40 to 50 patients per day, but has had to significantly reduce the number of patients to prevent any community contact. He has experienced a significant reduction in net income, but net income remains positive to date. Colonie Senior Services, Inc. Has requested support from the IDA. You'll remember we discussed this at the last meeting, but we were focused on the key fob system that was included in there. They also had included some PPE expenses that, through our discussions about the key fob and not accepting that, we just were not prepared to get to these additional expenses that night. And so we did go back through the application. They've requested $2,033.82. We did confirm that they did have 30 FTEs with an annual average payroll of $60,000. They indicated they did reduce their employment through furloughs from a non-FTE headcount of 62 at the end of Q4 of 2020 to a non-FTE headcount of 57 at the end of Q2 of 2020. And again, they calculated out and confirmed to us that was 30 FTEs. And Dr. Barra, she's requested $6,360 to offset the unanticipated cost for air purification devices and PPE. She did have some additional expenses in there, including dental tools, but we believe that they should be removed as not meeting the criteria of the grant. At the time of the application, she has 2 employees with an average payroll of $65,000. And prior to and after the COVID closure, she's had positive income. So those are the 4 I would recommend that the Finance Committee accept and move on to the full board tonight.
Great summary, Sean. Any questions on any of those?
No.
It's great that, we were able to, we will have been able to distribute, more than $70,000. Unfortunately, even when you try to do something good, it seems like it can't be simplified, even though I think this group worked to simplify it as much as possible. And Sean and Melissa have made it easy, went back, double checked, went back, triple checked. But I guess money's hard to give away. So if there are no questions, could we get a motion to accept those 4 and final PPE grants?
Yeah, so moved.
Moved by Gary, second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I can't see why anybody would be opposed. So that's unanimous, and we'll move that to the full board in a few minutes. Is there any other business for the committee? I don't think so.
I don't have anything, Carm. I don't know if Chris does.
Nothing new.
All right. Well, we'll recess this recording here. If you want to turn your microphones and cameras off until we pick back up at 6 o'clock.
Okay, I thought maybe we are going to have 5 questions with Chris, but or for Chris.
We already had that.
I read it with interest.
I appreciate it. You're the only one.
All right, see you in a bit.
Okay. We're back up.
We're trickling back in. We got 2 minutes to go still.
Okay. There's Mr. Ben.
Hey guys, sorry.
How are you, Ben?
We're still running our stream on YouTube, just so everybody's aware.
I think we're waiting on Peter and Eric, correct?
Correct.
Well, it's 6 o'clock. I think we'll wait another minute or so, see if Peter or Eric are going to join. Did you hear anything, Sean, relative to them not?
Now, I know Peter said he was going to be here. I don't remember Eric's response. Eric should be here as well.
Okay. Well, we'll wait another minute or two. Buses are running a little late, right, Carm?
No, they're right on time, John.
I was going to say the buses are right on time, John.
Always on time.
I sometimes wish we could put a plow on the front of a bus.
Oh, you're not kidding.
Now you're talking about United Traction days.
We said that. There's Peter. Hi, Pete. All right, we can wait on Eric. I guess we'll get started here. Do we have anyone for public comment on the Lincoln Avenue Development Project, Sean?
We do have the applicants here. Do you want me to introduce the project just to refresh everybody and for the record here? And then
That would be good.
All right. So as you remember previously, we've introduced the project for Lincoln Avenue Development LLC. The proposed project is located on 28 acres here in the town as part of, and actually within the Lincoln Avenue BOA area. It was previously vacant and a railroad yard before that. This project here involves the construction of 4 new buildings, the first of which will be occupied by entities related to the applicant, and the remainder of the site will be leased to third-party tenants for flex space, office, warehouse, and distribution. The applicant has indicated the project will retain 121 jobs, create 72 new jobs. The applicant's already invested $625,000 in the project and plans to invest another $11,070,000 more, all from private sources. So they've requested the IDA's assistance in the form of $262,920 of sales and use tax exemptions, $85,000 of a mortgage reporting tax exemption, and an abatement of real property taxes of approximately $305,562, which is a total potential exemption of approximately $653,482. They're asking that the IDA consider phasing the benefits in for each building as it's constructed. As the uses with respect to the building being occupied by entities related to the applicant that do not fall within the UTEP, we have sent deviation letters out to the affecting taxing jurisdictions and the remaining piece of the projects fall within the UTEP. And so with that, I'd like to invite, I believe, Chuck Pafundi or Jim Carminucci, who are here on behalf of the applicant to present the project. Chuck or Jim?
Jim, would you like to speak?
You're on mute, Jim.
Yeah, I just unmuted. Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. As we presented last time, this project involves the construction of 4 buildings within the project site described by Sean, including 2 15,000 square foot buildings and 2 10,000 square foot buildings. Building number 3 identified in our application is the building that would be occupied by entities affiliated with the applicant. And the other 3 buildings are intended for distribution warehousing space, which would be leased to yet unidentified third-party tenants. Because of the fact that the build-out is occurring over several years as the demand is identified for use of those warehouse distribution buildings, we are requesting that separate pilot treatment be accorded to each building so that each building as constructed can enjoy the benefits of the full 7-year pilot term that we are requesting. Happy to answer any questions. I don't know, Chuck, if you have anything to add to that overview.
No, like as you folks can see, Sean has our master plan up right now, but through the previous presentations, the application here is just for phase 1. But we did provide the town both for planning and IDA purposes a master plan so that they could kind of see where this project's going. And some of the benefits we talked about were, larger scale thinking than just the first phase. So we wanted to present the master plan in front of you folks so that you could also see what the build out is also going to bring to the town as well.
If I could, John, I'll just circle back in here. We've taken a look at this through a number of different lenses, if you will. We looked at it both for the project approval policy, for the IDA. We've taken a look at it under general municipal law. We look at it from a cost benefit analysis standpoint. Overall, no great concerns on my end here. Looking just for some notes here, excuse me. The cost benefit analysis was pretty significant. Let me just pull that up and I can share that with you. I will note that we are working through a bit of a data hiccup on the cost benefit analysis, which is just resulting in an overestimate of some of the benefits here. But if I could, I'll walk through that. You see, we took a look at this when we mapped out the cost benefit. We looked at the total cost of construction and discussing with the folks from Louisiana, realizing this may take a couple of years to build out. They felt reasonably confident that they could get there by the end of year 2. But in our discussions, the resolution you have tonight before you provides them a little bit more time to get through the process in case things don't quite go as we anticipate. We did the cost benefit analysis. We took that look, the anticipated real property tax exemption would be the sales tax, the mortgage recording tax. This is an issue where this is over by 0.25%. I have contacted the developer because we're including incorrectly the value of the Regional Transportation Authority's share of the mortgage recording tax, which needs to be removed from that calculation. Get down to the bottom line cost benefit on this project. We look at this overall. It's about 100 to 1 cost benefit ratio here versus the project benefits and the cost of the project itself. The cost of the project, again, is really limited to the the exemptions on the sales tax, the exemption on the mortgage recording tax, and then the benefit that would be received from the pilot. I think it's important to point out this is, being in the brownfield opportunity area in Lincoln Avenue, this is a site that currently pays taxes based on an assessed valuation of $200,000. So the improvements that are going to happen here over the next few years are certainly going to change that assessed valuation and provide some significant benefit to the town, both in the redevelopment of the corridor in support of our Lincoln Avenue BOA, but also from a dollars and cents figure. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I do, Chuck or Jim. Why did you start work before the IDA approved?
So I provided a letter to Sean too, kind of walking through this. And, you know, the way our development company is set up is we obviously own a site work company, and we build a lot of our own buildings. Those companies are Peter Louisi and Brothers Contracting and Louisi Construction Services. So in today's, before COVID hit, you know, financing was usually at like an 80 to 20 split with loan to equity. Right now, it's like banks are pushing 65, 35. Most of the development we're doing recently, to include Starbuck Island and Green Island and Rivers Ledge and Niskayuna, both IDA supported, were underutilized pieces of property. So you don't have a lot of equity coming in for financing in the beginning because you buy the property well undervalued, right? So the way we gain our equity, starting the site packages and starting pretty much Peter Louisi and Brothers takes the gamble on starting the site work infrastructure ahead of financing and absorbs that cost. So we have the equity and stake to be able to finance later on. And that's how we've set up a lot of these underutilized pieces of property on how they work financially for us to pull financing for the development.
Okay, good. So that's probably why, part of the reason you chose that area?
Yeah, so like Peter, a lot of, as you know, property is competitive now. You know what I mean? There's a lot of good properties, high overvalued. And for Peter and ourselves to be able to find these pieces that most developers that don't own site work companies and the equipment to develop, we don't get scared off by them because we can absorb a lot of that cost, right? So Starbuck Island, for instance, was a brownfield opportunity or brownfield area. We ended up taking on about 2.2 million in site remediation costs ahead of IDA approval, and also some site work as well. And that gained enough equity to be able to bring the financing to closing and also solidify the IDA support later on. So it's kind of our little niche that we found. When Joe LaCivita originally kind of brought Peter to the BOA committee to kind of look at the piece, that was one of the reasons that I think Joe introduced us to the area to look at least, was because it was kind of our MO, you could say.
Good. The Watervliet School District was okay with this?
Jim, can you speak
With
on
the
that?
pilot?
I don't know if we successfully contacted the school district or not. I know that they were notified through your process. I presume you did not get any comments one way or another.
No, I guess not. Sean? Oh, okay. And how long, one other question, because I mean, you're talking phasing in this pilot. So technically, how long could this run?
So this is, as you saw in the master plan, this is only phase one. So right now we're, you know, this meeting here is the last thing that we need to be able to close on our financing, which was for the first building and one other spec warehouse, right? So that could be done immediately. And we have a lot of traction with some interested parties on the warehouses that are down there and taking a look at them. But the other two, we would expect to be able to build in the next 2 years and acquisition tenants. So we're hoping 2 to 3 years would be our ideal time frame for this first quote unquote phase that's included in this application.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for Chuck or Jim?
Yeah, typically, I've always kind of looked out for the school districts, and typically it's 100% in Waterville. Or is there some of it in North Colony also?
It's just, Eric, it's entirely within the Waterville district. We confirmed that on the tax rolls.
Okay, and typically we've asked for a letter from the school district saying that they understand how the pilot's going to affect their tax rate. And we've asked for a letter saying that they approve of this, is how we've kind of done it in the past. Because the pilot does affect the school's tax rate.
That's not something that we have. We certainly can pursue that. My concern always with asking school districts to approve anything that involves a pilot is that they're not under any obligation to, and sometimes it's difficult for them to sign off on anything like that.
And then my other
Long
question
term,
is,
it's beneficial to them in the long term anyway, correct, Sean?
Well, the challenge with the school districts is really, it's the pilot calculation and how that affects their tax cap. I think, when we clearly look at this from a revenue standpoint, the school district's going to make out, because the way our pilots are structured is that whatever they're paying now, they're still going to receive. But it's the odd math of how the tax cap is calculated out, where the value of the pilot is subtracted out. And so you end up, I say, being a year behind. I think on a project like this, because we're talking about an assessed value, I think of $200,000, the initial first year subtraction is not terribly significant. I don't think it's not as much of a challenge as it might be elsewhere on another property in town that has a much higher assessed valuation.
and then my other question is kind of to Melissa. We've had projects before where the people have owned the land and have already started construction and come to us. In the past, we said that it's kind of illegal to do after the fact, once they're already, how can you talk about that law that we've used in the past or had to adhere to in the past?
Well, just to clarify, it's a facts and circumstances test for the IDA. And so, in this case, Chuck has provided substantial evidence to Sean, which Sean has provided to you as the board members. And, according to the statements that Chuck has made before you in the application, they've, addressed why they've already begun the project and that the project needs the IDA assistance to go forward. So if you're comfortable with that evidence, then it's, Sean and I find that it's reasonable for you to make a determination in this instance. I would note, Chuck has indicated that that he won't be able to close on the financing without the assistance. And so I know in certain instances in the past, we've not gone forward on some projects.
And Eric, to follow up on that too, yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with Chuck and the folks there as to why they're doing this, and I fully understand the need to build equity on a $200,000 piece of property in order to leverage, $11 million in potential project costs across the board. Like Melissa said, their financing is not quite done yet because they're waiting for the IDA to participate in this project before the bank will finance the project. There's another way to reduce that debt to equity ratio.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for Chuck or Jim? No, hearing none. I want to thank Melissa and Sean. I'll tell you, you guys both put a ton of work into this, so I appreciate that.
John, I was just a little unclear on what we're doing with the school district. I heard the project proponent talk about not wanting to ask the school district, but I think, as Eric pointed out, we've sort of made this part of the process. So if the project proponent doesn't want to reach out, then I think the executive director should reach out. And, as much as the project proponent thinks this would not be impactful to the district, we don't want to be in a position where a year from now, there's an article in the Times Union about $100,000 hole blown in the wall. Who knows? I mean, you can't figure this stuff out. So I think it just makes sense to cover our bases and circle back with the school district before that creates a headache for the town board and the supervisor.
Melissa, since we were talking about closing this, if the board were to consider the sales tax exemption and the mortgage recording tax exemption, and we still have to sort out some of the technical issues in the pilot, is that something that we could do part of this at this meeting and then work on the school district piece to come back in January and finish the pilot up?
We certainly could. On the school district front, I would note that the IDA has complied with your uniform tax exemption policy in terms of reaching out to the school district.
Yeah,
the deviation letter was sent, and so that walks them through those procedures.
Peter,
I get that, but I think it's a matter of courtesy, and it should be a real quick chance dealing with this and the department. I still think it's a bad.
I lost some of your audio there, Peter, but I think you're asking us to still check on that.
Well, I'm saying the city manager is a little bit familiar with the way this works, so let's check with him. Joe Lasavita.
I also can tell you that the school districts are under tremendous stress right now, and especially Waterville. The state's currently holding back what they already promised to school districts, and politically, this is very difficult for the school district right now. We see as board members here sometimes the same thing if a pilot's granted, people are asking, the optics are tough. So I would like the school district, kind of the same thing, to say, hey, we understand long-term it's good for us. We're ready to do it. Or in the light of how it affects our tax cap with the current budget conditions, we're not ready to do it. But I think I think the school district, as we've done in the past, needs to be heard from.
Can I just ask a question? What if you approach them and you receive no response? Because I've certainly seen that happen before.
Yeah, Jim, we've had that happen on other projects.
Yeah.
With both South and North Colony. In the court, whatever connection we make with them, we give them a day to give us an answer by, and then if they don't, then we're at least in my estimation, we're clear. We gave them the opportunity to be heard, and then that's on them at that point.
Right.
And let's make that deadline tight, because this is not a overly complicated thing to work through.
I can certainly make that outreach tonight before the end of the evening and start that process moving. I guess then it comes down to, do we want to separate this into 2 steps, or, and I think the sales tax exemption, and I don't know, where the applicant is in their process, how, a delay on the sales tax exemption by a little more than a month is going to affect the project.
So obviously tonight's meeting was like an extremely important meeting for us, because we have ourselves and some other vendors that are waiting on this financing on our end. So I guess with what I'm understanding is, are we going to push the meeting out and the tentative decision out until January now?
Well, can I ask a question? So the response from the school district would affect the pilot more than sales tax exemption, correct? Is there any way to move forward with that, assuming that this project is approved this evening, and then await whatever happens with the school district for the balance of the benefits that are being applied for? Obviously, if you ultimately run into an issue with the school district and the project doesn't get full approval, that would take the mortgage recording tax exemption off the table in any event. So I guess the immediate need is sales tax abatement, correct, Chuck?
Yes.
Well,
Can we do that, Melissa?
Yeah, that's fine. If that's what the board wants to do, we can modify the approving resolution to just approve that portion of the project or that portion of the benefits.
Can we go ahead and tentatively approve the project and the pilot based on response from the school district? I don't know if I'm clear with that.
I'd be comfortable with that, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest.
Contingent on hearing back from the district within the next 10 days or.
And, you know, send them a letter that follows up and documents it. And 10 days from now, if you don't hear from them, or maybe move forward.
Done deal.
I'll be very candid, and I'd probably be inclined to vote for the project, even if there, you know, is an objection from the school district. I mean, but I do want to give them I don't want to be in the position to say we didn't let them be heard. I think the project's that important to move it forward.
Yeah, I agree, Peter. Yeah.
But I want to, you know, let's make sure that we're not creating a catastrophe in Waterville.
Well, let's do that then if we can, Sean and Melissa. We'll do it on a tentative basis, and like Peter said, maybe 10 days or something. If we don't hear back or we don't hear anything negative, it'll just be enforced.
So we're looking to separate them and pass them both that way, do the sales tax tonight, and then pass the second resolution that will allow us to do the tentative approval based upon the letter from Waterville. That way, the applicant has the letter to go to the bank on the sales tax right away.
Well, why not do everything together and not use the word tentative and basically put the school district on a 10-day notice to let their feelings be known. That way, the applicant leaves today with approval, understanding that within 10 days, you know, something could happen, but not likely. I mean, who are we kidding?
Can I jump in? Chuck and Jim, could you clarify, have there been any conversations with the school district regarding your pilot request?
I can speak that I've talked to Joe LaCivita in the last month quite in depth about this project, just because of his involvement in the beginning, and I'm also trying to capture some things and his understanding in the past with things that we had discussed. And I did not hear. I told him that we were having this meeting for final approval, and he wished me luck and hoped the best for us. So,
and could you clarify, Joe? Can you clarify Joe LaCivita's role in regards to the school district?
What is Joe?
He
Sean,
doesn't
what
have
is
a
Joe?
role with the school district.
He's a city.
He's unrelated to the school district.
He's the city manager for Waterville.
Yeah.
Have you had any conversations with the school district itself? Anyone at the school district?
I don't believe so.
Personal opinion here, I think we're making this more difficult than it needs to be.
So I would recommend that the board has two options. You've complied with the uniform tax exemption policy. The school district has received a letter that details the provisions of the pilot and explains how it would impact. You've got the information that the location is currently assessed at $200,000. And so the net benefit, the net effect to the school district will be positive. They'll be receiving more payments under the pilot than they would currently. And the school district has received that information. And so you could choose to proceed in that light. If you need to receive, if you feel that you need to receive confirmation, which again is not a written policy of the board, we would have to bring that piece separately back to the board if you're not comfortable proceeding with the pilot under the current circumstances.
So when was that notification sent to the school district?
On December 11th.
Yeah, I don't know if they've gotten a letter mailed December 11th or dated December 11th. I'm not quite sure what we're agonizing over.
So do you want to make a motion then, Carm, just to proceed?
Yeah, and if you want to put a caveat in there that you want to, formally notify them again, so be it. But I think the applicant should leave here knowing that, they have the board's support here and we endorse the project.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Before we take action on the approving resolution, we did, that we began the conversation as part of the public hearing. But we do, before the board chooses to proceed on the approving resolution, we do also have the seeker resolution before the board for consideration.
Melissa, you broke up on me there. I didn't catch that.
Before we proceed, we've been having this discussion as part of the public hearing on the project. And I just want to point out that before we proceed with anything with the approving resolution, there is also the seeker resolution that would need to be adopted before the approving resolution.
Melissa, should we also close the public hearing before taking action?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess. Is that right, Melissa? We closed the public hearing? I think we lost it.
On our agenda, we had the proposed resolutions under unfinished business, so we would have closed the public hearing in order to get to that step. So I believe that's appropriate.
All right, Sean, is there any other public comment that you heard of, or anybody else on board?
We've received none. When we published a legal notice, we did indicate that people could submit comments via email up till 4 o'clock today, and also inform people that they could register to provide comments through the Zoom meeting or watch the meeting online.
Okay, just for the record, let it be noted that we did Sean did send out notice of the public hearing and anybody that wanted to register. So, okay, I guess with that, we'll close the public hearing.
Need a motion and a second.
Got a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second
Ben?
it.
Second? Second by Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, okay. All right, let's go into the regular meeting then. And we have all the board members present. And everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes of the previous meeting. Any additions, deletions, corrections, comments?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Carm,
Second.
second by Allison. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Okay, report of the officers. Just one quick thing here. I guess with this past year, the way it's been is crazy year. I don't ever remember a year like this in my life, but it's flying by. We went right through Hanukkah and the Hanukkah holidays, and I hope everyone that was involved in that had a good Hanukkah season. And we're running right into Christmas, and I just want to wish everyone a great Christmas and holiday season. And we're walking into the new year, and I'm hoping and praying that it's going to be better for all of us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sean.
Thank you, John. Just a couple of updates from my end here. We received 6 responses to the RFP for economic development and marketing services. 3 are from firms specializing in economic development. 3 are from firms specializing in marketing. 2 of the firms are Colony-based businesses. 2 firms are women-based enterprises. All of them are qualified. And under new business, I'll recommend that the board approve all 6 for the next 2 years. They've approved. We're going to start working with them right away on 2 projects for 2021. The first being a business retention, expansion, and attraction strategy, which we've talked earlier in this year about. And the second is an update to the IDA and LDC websites. Some of that will be framework based on what we need to do statutorily, and some elements we'll save until we get through some of the business retention, expansion, and attraction strategy phases. At the end of the day, our goal is to make the websites easier to manage and navigate for external users. Last month, the Colonie Chamber of Commerce did elect me to a 3-year term on its board of directors. The town has traditionally been represented on the chamber's board, and so I'm pleased to continue in that tradition. 2 weeks ago, I participated in an event with the Site Selectors Guild, and we met with some of the industry's top site selectors to talk about current trends and needs in economic development. There remains a general consensus that it's really still unknown what's going to happen with the general office space market, but the demand for warehousing and manufacturing space still remains strong. While large prospects are out looking for sites that are 25 to 40 acres, demand does seem to remain focused on sites of at least 50,000 to 75,000 square feet and up. And the companies are looking for attractive communities with defined neighborhoods and a visible high quality of life. They've also suggested some of the best tools that we can have at our disposal include case studies and use cases for mid-market and small cap projects that are 50 jobs and more. And in terms of specific industries, we should really focus our attention on manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, life sciences, biotechnology, and pharmaceuticals. There's also some opportunity in the food and value-added agriculture. And last 2 updates, in January, I'll start my 2-year term as National Chair of the American Planning Association's Economic Development Division. And then in January, the New York State Economic Development Council will hold its 2021 Virtual Economic Development Conference. And that program will have sessions on site selection, workforce development, economic gardening, pilots, and smart growth. The IDA is a sponsor for the events. It's typically held in the capital region. And if any board members would like to attend, please let me know, and I'll make sure that you get registered. That's it for me, John.
Good, Sean. You're going to have to clone yourself here.
I'd like to get registered, please.
You got it.
Good. Put me in there too, Sean. Okay. Going to go to Chris Kelsey, CFO.
Okay, I believe Sean put in the packets for this evening, since I've been home on quarantine, the internal financial statements through December 15th for both the IDA and the LDC. The IDA currently has roughly $1,368,000 in cash, $6,000 in receivables from New York State Department of State grant on the Brownfield Opportunity Area, and some prepaid expenses for insurances. We're still holding the property on Old Maxwell Road at $27,000. We've paid all the bills related to the Brownfield Opportunity Area that we currently had that we were carrying in October when we went over this, and we've got a net position or fund balance or savings account, I guess, however you want to put it, of $1.4 million. When you look at the profit and loss statement, there were a few notable changes from October. One, we collected $71,500 from the Desmond project in administrative fees. There were $83,700 paid out for $50,000 for the administrative fee for 2020, and then roughly $33,000 in legal fees through, I believe, October. Then at this point, we're generating a loss of roughly $12,000. I'm expecting that to be in the $25,000 realm loss for the year. Easily, again, it's just timing of when projects. Obviously, we see we've got a couple of good projects on the table tonight that will cover, that loss in 2021 when they close. That's it for the LDC. As for the IDA, or no, I had to reverse that. That's for the IDA. For the LDC, the only activity since October is $8,500 again in legal fees and administrative fees, $2,000 for the admin and $6,500 for legal fees. We're sitting on cash of about $251,000 with a fund balance net position of $252,000.
Anyone have any questions for Chris? We need a motion to accept that report.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Have a nice holidays.
Ben and Eric. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to committee reports. We didn't have an audit and we didn't have a governance committee meeting, so we'll go into finance and I'll ask Carm to report.
Thanks, John. The Finance Committee met before the board meeting at 5:30. We have a resolution to advance. As you recall, there were 4 outstanding applications to be reviewed for our PPE program. Thanks to good work of Sean and Melissa, we've gotten all the questions answered that we need to get answered. So I'd like to move a resolution to award PPE grants to Accent on Health, Christopher Lyons, Colony Senior Services Center, and Elizabeth Barra.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'm going to abstain due to best practices. One of those applicants is my dentist.
Okay. And Ben's abstaining and everyone else is an aye.
I believe Allison had an abstention on one of those too.
Yeah, I have to abstain on the Colony Senior Center.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
Okay,
that concludes my report, John.
okay, very good. Thank you. And we'll go into unfinished business. We've got some resolutions that we need to approve. Melissa, you want to?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So with respect to the Lincoln Avenue Development Project, the first resolution before you is with respect to seeker. And so the Town of Colony Planning Board had previously reviewed the project and at the time had declared itself as lead agency, and the IDA wasn't involved in that process, but as part of the IDA's review for the project before it now, the agency has, has been reviewed the negative declaration that was issued by the town. And so the resolution before you would be to recognize that the town planning board's negative declaration and to adopt it as your own in advance of acting on the project. Are there any questions?
Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion.
Second
Carm,
it.
second by Peter, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next. Next one, Melissa?
Yeah. Okay, so the next resolution before the board for approval is a resolution that would approve the acquisition, construction, and equipping of the facility for the Lincoln Avenue Development Project. As following up on our prior discussions, this resolution is for a project that would involve the construction of the four buildings on 28 acres over in Waterville, known as 951st Street. And it would be leased out to the Louisi companies that are referenced in the application, along with third-party tenants. And so the requisite notices have gone out regarding the public hearing and regarding the deviation from the IDA's UTEP. We've set forth an approval process whereby Sean, as permitted under general municipal law, would approve future tenants upon notice from the company. And to the extent needed, we would come back for board approval for any tenants that would require board action under the general municipal law. And otherwise, the resolution authorizes the various documents that would be required to evidence the various financial assistance that would be provided. And the company has also requested temporary sales tax benefits that would be put into place prior to entering into the regular straight lease transaction. And I will note that we have set out in the resolution that the latest that a pilot would start on any of the 4 parcels. We have it structured so that we could enter into separate straight lease transactions with respect to each building in order for each building to benefit from the full 7 years. But we have set out in the resolution that the latest that a pilot could start from this approval would be 7 years, so that there wouldn't be that there would be an end date in terms of when the pilots could start. Are there any questions?
Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Carm.
I'll second it.
Who was
Gary.
that?
Gary.
Second.
Mhm.
Okay, Gary, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, do we have anything else, Melissa?
Is there anybody opposed to that resolution? Okay, thank you.
I'll go on the record. I mean, it's going through as it is, but I think Chuck and James need to understand that in our current tax situation where the school districts are actually getting less water volites, laying off tons of people, the optics of this pilot right now are just couldn't be worse for your company. If you came to us last January, I'd be in on it in a second, but I just think it's, I don't know if there's something you guys could do for the city or do for the school district. The optics right now are just not good.
I'll also note that if, there's a master plan to this project. So any future phases, I think that folks know very well that they've got to have buy-in from the school district, or at least have that conversation with the school district before now.
In Melissa's explanation, she referred to the fact that the tenant occupancy could come back to the board to make sure it's in compliance with the general municipal law. Which board?
This board.
This board.
The IDA. Okay.
Yeah, so that's just, as I had outlined in the email, that's just to cover, there are restrictions in general municipal law regarding a company moving from one area of the state to another. And so in the event that a future tenant would be moving from one area of the state to the other, then those tenants would need to be approved by the board. Just subject to your.
Otherwise, it's approved by Sean. Because the reason I'm asking is, and I'm trying to find it and I can't find it, but it's in one of these documents you sent, there was something in here that indicated that the executive director would approve tenants. And maybe I'm going crazy.
Exactly, right. So, so we've got it so that the Lincoln Avenue Development Company would notify Sean when there's a tenant so that he could review and approve and make sure that everything is in line under the general municipal law. And to the extent that on Sean's review in consultation with my office, if there was a need for board approval under general municipal law, then those tenants would come to the board. Otherwise, the resolution delegates to Sean for the approval.
Can you give a layman like me an example of what would trigger a review by this board?
A company that comes in that does not meet the policy. So in this case, we talk about warehousing and distribution types of projects. If it deviated outside the policy, and the type of tenant didn't fall into one of those buckets, or the situation that Melissa mentioned above, that the company is abandoning a facility elsewhere in New York State to come here, we have to address, the anti-pirating provisions in general municipal law. So, and they're pretty objective elements. I think it's akin to the building department here looking at a proposed use on a piece of property. If it meets zoning, it's good. If it doesn't, it's got to go to the ZBA. That's all I have to add to that.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Anything else, Melissa?
No, that was everything.
That's it? Okay. Okay, into new business.
I'd just like to thank everyone for the time and attention that's been put on the application. We realize it's a little bit out of the box, and we really appreciate everything that's gone into this.
Yes, we as well. Thank you very much for everybody's time and your patience through everything.
You're welcome, Chuck and Jim. And, as I said, Melissa and Sean put a lot of time and effort into this. So I thank them too, particularly. So, Okay, let's move into new business.
I do
And
want
we-
to, if I could, just John, we had a second project initially on the agenda this week for BLK property pictures. One of the reasons, we were trying to work through that with the school district, they still had some questions, there are some other reasons why we pulled that back, but we're still working through issues like that on that application too. So we'll be very aware of that moving forward. The new business here, the review and the evaluation of responses to the Economic Development and Marketing Consulting Services RFP. We did, as I mentioned in my report, received 6 proposals. I would recommend that we approve them all as consultants to our list. I'll share with you some just quick scoring that was done. We did take a look at each of the responses and rated in 6 areas that were included in the RFP. These are the questions below. Questions 1 through 5 were technical in nature. Number 6 was in regards to its overall cost. Our scoring matrix said that in order to appear on our list, you had to achieve a 60% or more in your responses. And so everybody across the board here did meet that 60% threshold, but depending on the amount of information, their responses, they were rated accordingly. And so these are the 6: Braun Media, Camoin 310, EM Pembroke, Cathode Ray, MRB Group, and Vibrant Brands.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
What happened to Barton and LaJudas? They didn't respond to an RFP or?
No, we didn't get a submission from them on this one.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for Sean?
You recall, John, when they first interviewed a few years back, we brought up that Camoin did their economic development. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why they didn't bother. I have a question for council. I do not have a current contract with any of the people that provided proposals. I have worked with 3 of them in the past. And Ellen was a former consultant for me as a sub-consultant. Through best practices, do I have to abstain from the vote, or I don't have any current contracts with anybody right now?
Right, yeah, nothing fits within the conflicts of interest, and if you're comfortable, then.
I am. I just want to make sure before I voted.
Okay, any other questions for Sean? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Ben? Second, Peter? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And if there's nothing else before, I want to congratulate Peter on that $5 million grant that Mackenzie Scott gave. I'll tell you, what a phenomenal thing that is, Pete.
That was all Carm.
That was Carm, both of you, phenomenal,
All Carm.
phenomenal job. Yeah, well,
He did the work,
congratulations.
I held the leash.
Guys are the best. Congratulations. And Chris,
We
I hope
break a lot of
you and your
rules.
son are going to do a lot better with that COVID test. So
Thank
good
you.
luck. Okay. Anything else we need to have come before the board?
Just the next meeting, we initially had it for, I think, January 11th. I just asked that we push that to January 25th. It was an off week because of the Martin Luther King holiday. And so if we could do that, that'll give us some more time to wrap up loose ends with the holidays coming up.
Okay, great.
Good.
Okay, if hearing nothing else, I just want to again wish you all a great Christmas and holiday season. And again, hopefully next year is going to be much better for all of us. Guys, take care.
Merry Christmas, John.
Happy holidays,
Thanks.
everybody.
Well.
Hey, Sean, this is Gary.